The pioneers of science fiction captured people's imagination in the early part of the 20th century. Ray Bradbury is perhaps the bridge between those visionaries and our current catalog of Star Wars and other more fantasy-type stories. It all started 30 miles north of Chicago in Waukegan, Illinois. Monsters, aliens, and flying saucers are sensational fantasies that sell. But the early days of science fiction do not delve too deeply into the human condition.
It became the genre of the cheap pulp magazines that were written mostly for 14 and 15-year-old boys.
As Ray Bradbury refers to it, bug-eyed space monsters and half-naked space women. He expands the boundaries by infusing universal lessons to help us navigate the future through his incredible writing.
You're in the room. He puts you in the room. Same thing with any of the stories that take place on Mars. You feel you're there.
Time travel through paper, ink, and imagination. The guidance and warnings he wrote 75 years ago are more relevant than ever.
He said, I'm not trying to predict the future, I'm trying to prevent it.
I was hoping that during the last few days, as we got closer to Mars and the dust cleared, that we see a lot of Martians standing there with huge signs saying Bradbury was right.
Like those who come before him, Ray Bradbury starts by writing in those pulps, like Weird Tales and Astounding Wonder Stories. But he uses the appeal of those space adventures to deliver something more poignant. Novels like The Martian Chronicles and Fahrenheit 451.
He's one of the main figures who elevated science fiction to a form of serious literature and turned it into what he called the fiction of ideas.
Patrick Mullins is Associate Professor of History at Marquette University. As a boy, he became a pen pal of the famous author he so admired.
I sent a fan letter to him, and he responded and sent me a signed poster. And then in my late 20s, we started up a correspondence and exchanged letters and phone calls and gifts. I wish I could say that I was special, but he was very generous with his fans. If you loved him, he gave the love right back.
Ray Bradbury never goes to college. He likes to say he graduated from the library, like this one in his hometown of Waukegan.
They're off at 2,000 miles an hour.
He dreams of rockets, but never drives a car. He imagines technological advancements, but doesn't use a computer. He says the key to navigating the future is to remember the past.
Ray Bradbury thought that science fiction can literally save the world.
The backstory of Bradbury's inspiration is a bit mysterious. He credits a magician at a carnival, Mr. Electrico, who uses electricity in his act and touches Bradbury on the nose and says, "Live forever." 12-year-old Ray Bradbury goes home and begins writing. He's fascinated with the idea of immortality. Bradbury is born after the great influenza pandemic. Many of his family members die. He finds solace in Halloween.
Horror stories, science fiction stories, fantasy stories, and Halloween helped him think about death in a way that he could control. He would say that, we celebrate Halloween for the same reason that we read horror stories.
In 1950, Bradbury publishes The Martian Chronicles, which is turned into a miniseries in 1980. The story isn't just about the colonization of Mars.
He addresses issues like the dispossession of indigenous people, the ruination of the ecology of the planet. We human beings have this power to go to other planets, but we just bring all of our vices with us to Mars and repeat a lot of the same things that we did in junking up Earth.
Bradbury examines the past to see what may unfold in the future. For example, he has an ancestor who is caught up in the mass hysteria of the 17th century witch trials. Somehow she escapes.
It kind of helped to fuel Bradbury's commitment to freedom of thinking and opposition to the mob mentality, to censorship.
Those themes emerge in the 1953 novel Fahrenheit 451, inspired by Nazi book burnings.
There is an all-powerful state that suppresses independent thinking, and it does this by suppressing the freedom to read. This is a story of people who try to save books, and in so doing try to save culture and rebuild it.
Seems relevant
It seems
today.
very relevant as we're fighting over which books can be in the library and which can't. Yeah.
The fence we walked between the years did balance us serene. It was a place half in the sky where in the green of leaf and promising of peach, we'd reach our hand to touch and almost touch the sky. If we could reach and touch, we said, it would teach us not to, never to, be dead.
The fantastical and futuristic universe of Ray Bradbury is inspired by small-town America. He grows up in Waukegan, Illinois, where he says he meets Mr. Electrico and loves Halloween. His memories of the summer of 1928 inspire stories like Dandelion Wine.
Old Mr. Sanderson moved through his shoe store as the proprietor of a pet shop must move through his shop, touching each pet briefly along the way. And I read Dandelion Wine and was enchanted. One moment, the door to Sanderson's shoe emporium was empty.
Marilyn Ray Beyer receives it as a gift when she's just 15.
And I gave my husband a copy, in fact, when we were dating in the 80s, and said, "Tell me what you think." And he passed the test. He liked it well enough.
She becomes a high school teacher in the 1970s, and she wants to adapt Bradbury's play The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit for a reading and prose competition. But first, she has to get the rights. She tracks down Ray Bradbury himself.
And he granted me the right to combine the two pieces of work and said, "I ask only one thing in return. Send me a photo of the boys and a cassette of their performance." Now, with painful slowness, daring to look only at the money in his cupped hand,
What
Douglas moved out
does
in bright sunlight
reading
and
science
said,
fiction, especially from Ray Bradbury, what can it teach them about the world?
Well, I think that the greatest value of any fiction, really, but in particular science fiction, you begin to understand somebody else better by reading about them, by portraying them, and by interacting with people who are just very different from you.
The human condition. As technology propels us forward, it creates new dilemmas. Bradbury saw them decades ago and warned us. And today he guides us through his catalog of 30 books and 600 short stories.
He was very worried in the 1950s and 1960s as kids stopped playing outside and started sitting in front of the television. And teenagers stopped going to sock hops and started listening to transistor radios, that we were becoming so attached to our devices that we were becoming alienated from other human beings and forming real relationships with people. We were becoming disconnected from nature.
Did he happen to suggest a solution?
Yeah. Turn it off.
Ray Bradbury died in Los Angeles in 2012 at the age of 91.